Hi, I'm Owen Wyndham,
And I'm Lily Memel.
and this is our project.
We have been doing research on the book Of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck.
This book is about two men who go to work on a farm so that someday they can buy their own land together. They have an amazing dream, but by the end of the book, one of the men, Lenny, makes mistakes that have a chain reaction.
The theme we believe represents this book is one death can be justified when it prevents other killings. A quote from the book that supports this theme is found on page 91. The text states, "Don't you go yellin'," he said, and he shook her, and her body flopped like a fish, and then she was still, for Lenny had broken her neck. This is a perfect example of how Lenny becomes an unintentional antagonist.
Lenny does not have a good idea of his actual strength, which is why, at the end of the book, George had to shoot him dead. Lenny couldn't have stopped even if he tried, and ultimately his death may have potentially saved the lives of many others.
The Great Depression was a time of great sadness and hardship. We believe that Steinbeck's portrayal of the Great Depression is accurately represented in this book. One thing that was accurately represented in the book was the treatment of disabled people.
From Special Populations by humbleisd.net, mentally handicapped people were often tied down to beds and kept from interacting with other individuals. They weren't considered to be worth much, so they were treated poorly. This is basically telling us how poorly mentally disabled people were treated.
As Lenny is mentally disadvantaged, it is hard for him to not find himself getting into all sorts of trouble. If it weren't for George, Lenny would have been killed a while before his death. People like Lenny were frowned upon and treated differently just because they were different.
Lenny did also kill a person, Curly's wife. There was a lot of crime during the Great Depression. From Crime in the Great Depression by History.com, violent crime rates may have risen at first during the Depression. In 1933, nationwide homicide mortality rate hit a high for the century until that point, a 9.7 per 100,000 people. But the trend did not continue throughout the decade. As the economy showed signs of recovery in 1934 to 37, the homicide went down by 20%.
Because of what Lenny did, it was understandable how all the men wanted to kill him. However, in modern day, this is not how his actions would have been dealt with. He may have gotten the death penalty or even just a regular sentencing to prison. Lenny being killed would not have been justified either. In modern day, that would have been tried in court as well. Nowadays, no one would ever kill a person with other people knowing and have it swept under the rug and ignored. There would have been consequences. There were death sentences during the Great Depression, however.
From the Death Penalty in America by Oxford University. Within a few years, during the 1930s and 1940s, executions reached their highest levels in this century, most likely as a consequence of public anxiety over the crime wave generated by the Great Depression and Prohibition. This ties back into the evidence provided by History.com that claimed that the crime rates in the Great Depression hit a high point for the century.
Additionally, there's a lot of murders in modern day as well. According to the CDC and the CDC stats of the states, in 2020, California, 2,368 deaths by homicide. Death rate, 6.1. There's a lot of death in the world, and a lot of it is caused by other people. Lenny killed Curly's wife. He killed his own puppy. He killed mice and accidentally attacked a woman. The killing of Lenny was just. Although his actions were unintentional, the damage was done and it couldn't be fixed. He needed to be stopped, and that is why George felt like he needed to do it himself and not have someone else do it.
Our theme is one death can be justified when it prevents other killings, and we believe that this is an accurate statement.
I'm Lily Memel.
And I'm Owen Wyndham.
And thank you for listening and watching.